Hi guys, it's Saladsandbolts. I am back reading another TBV chapter, language analysis. This is just so the people that don't want to sit down and read can have something to listen to if they prefer to listen to it, if they still want to read these things. Assuming anybody wants to read these things. I am going to read it out loud, just normally, so if you'd prefer to read it, I'll put the link in the description. If not, then this is for you. I also wrote this just in case somebody who has no idea who I am stumbles across this video. Time to stop being awkward. Welcome to the blog. If this is your first time here, I go over all the lost nuance from the Japanese to English translations of the chapters. It's known as thick translation in the translating world. If you want to know more about why every translation is just an approximation that will always be missing context, feel free to check out my essay on the perils of translation. I do study this as a college major in Japan, and I am currently in my 4th year of my studies, so hopefully I am able to convince you that I know what I'm talking about. All summaries of what I explained are in teal for the sake of a quicker read-through. Without further ado, let's get into the first chapter of TBV. It's going to take about 47 minutes and probably 50 minutes to actually read this. I apologize. Title: Boruto. If there's one thing I know about Ikemoto, it's that he always chooses his words, especially on the title and cover pages, intentionally. This title is a callback to the first title of Naruto Next Generation's Uzumaki Boruto. Now that Boruto has lost his name, he's just Boruto, and that's where the story starts. First page side text. In the Japanese magazine V-Jump, every first and last page will contain a little bit of text on the side that gives you a lead into the chapter. They're always removed in official English translations, not quite sure why. Maybe just because they're a pain to translate in format. They don't appear in the volumes either. かつて大異変を経たこの葉の里で、木陰の室の前、不満顔のサラダ. My translation of that was, Konoha village once underwent the event known as the Great Disaster. Now Sarada stands before the Hokage's office with a look of displeasure. The Great Disaster is the happening of Omnipotence, where Boruto and Kawaki's lives got switched. I feel like the official might have referenced it as the Great Calamity somewhere down the line, but I couldn't find anything on the internet, so that's what I decided to call it. Sarada's outfit and style change. Sarada's new outfit and hairstyle has a lot more cultural significance than a lot of people gave her credit for. First, we have her short hair, her off-the-shoulder jacket, and her overall style. So let's talk about short hair first. In Japan, haircuts in literature and creative work can oftentimes represent a deep loss. A lot of times in movies or TV shows, you will see a character cutting their hair after a tragic event. It helps them come to terms with their grief and push on toward dealing with their changed life. And I feel like this kind of short haircut is a much more common style for young girls in Japan than it is in the West. For Sarada, the events of the Great Disaster, hearing that Boruto was being blamed for the death of the 7th and giving up her father to save Boruto, were tragic enough to unlock her Mangekyo Sharingan. After losing 3 of the most important people in her life, it makes sense that she would cut her hair short to help deal with the grieving process for the people she holds dear, as well as pushing on to change her convictions from being a rule follower to defying authority. Her jacket. Ikemoto stated in an interview that this jacket is the same brand as Boruto's. In an attempt to reconcile her feelings after he leaves the village, she buys this jacket from the same menswear brand. Here's a link to the interview page. That is only on my blog. I apologize, you can't click on it in this video. This piece of information is in the video at the very bottom, timestamp 8 minutes and 45 seconds. Style. Wearing the jacket off the shoulder, combined with her new jewelry and other outfit changes, her outfit seems to be making a statement to challenge Japanese norms and rebel through clothing choice, similar to the concept of jidaike or gyaru culture. Notice how only the insides of Sarada's jacket have color, and it's primarily black with bright red highlights. Wearing all black or even bright red is a bit controversial, especially bright colors in general. She got her ears pierced, another slightly controversial choice because you're not allowed to have piercings in most jobs. I mean, sometimes ears is okay, but it isn't just wearing studs, but Uchiha earrings that dangle, despite the clan's history and her father's second offensive rebellion at her request. She's also got a choker with the Haruno symbol, symbolizing her love for her family, as well as a bit more of the goth-type style fashion, as seen by the flared leg warmers and platform heels, another classic gyaru choice. Japanese fashion is very strict. a lot more so than in the West. Rules are, modest is hottest, do your best to blend in, wear dull colors that don't stand out too much, keep the style plain, black hair, little to no jewelry, no piercings or tattoos, and keep yourself looking well put together. Gyaru and Jiraike, a brand of Gyaru culture, attempt to go against these norms by dressing in ways that stand out. Usually it comes with long nails, dyed hair, frills or lace, extravagant outfits. You see this a lot more in the city, like Shibuya, Shinjuku, Harajuku especially, but hardly at all in rural towns and areas still in Tokyo. Sarada's outfit isn't quite to the Gyaru extreme, but you do definitely see elements of rebellion against the norms. You can see how deeply the loss has affected her, and it matches with her rebelling against her current thoughts of the village by standing up for Boruto and her family. Sarada versus Shikamaru, disrespect and holding back. There's so much to unpack here, I'm struggling with where to start. As many of you know, there are politeness levels in Japanese that help convey tone. Sarada's tone right here is spitting with just the necessary formalities. She's adding des to the end of her words to be polite, but the rest is very forward and sharp-quipped. For those of you that don't know, insulting a higher-up or even daring to disagree with what they say is very controversial in Japan. Company policies, even if everyone thinks they're bad, often go years without changing because no one is willing to voice a complaint, and no one can go against the boss. This was likely the case with Studio Pierrot, Naruto and Boruto's anime studio, only proposing the idea of seasonal anime after the death of the director. Changing someone's mind in Japanese is usually all about deflecting and presenting things in a cautious manner, tiptoeing around the subject through subtle hints and dropping it at the slightest turn of tone. You'll see this in a lot of conversations with the elders or kobu later. Either way, what Sarada is doing right here is far beyond just marching into someone's office and yelling at them. Sarada insults Shikamaru with the word wakarayazuga. Wakarazia. I messed up the reading of that. Oops, my bad. Which means a stubborn person. It refers to someone who does not understand reason or someone who refuses to listen to what others say. My brain just switched from Japanese to English and now it's confused. It refers to a person who does not try to understand no matter how much you explain the reading or circumstances. Google definition. When she asks Shikamaru if she's worried about her because her dad is a traitor like Boruto, she uses polite form. When she says her role model is the 7th, she uses polite form. When she tells Shikamaru he's not her role model, that not you is in casual form. My role model is Lord 7th, not you. Ignore my stomach. 私のお手本は7代目です。あんたじゃない. First, we have, my role model is Lord 7th. I bolded the polite form for you. O adds politeness. Lord 7th shows respect to Naruto instead of just using his name. This puts the polite bow on the package. Many of you know that using anata to call someone is generally considered rude in Japanese if you know the person's name or title. You usually use their name, their title, etc. There are of course exceptions to this, but if you're close to someone you might still call them omae or aitsu, but that's usually just reserved for people on the same level. Sarada purposely calls Shikamaru anata, does not use his name or title, and even drops the polite speech. So she drops a bomb on him and walks out. That being said, what Sarada was doing here, I don't want to say it's rude, especially since she immediately after reflects on how disrespectful she was. She's being more polite than Naruto, and especially Boruto. If Naruto didn't believe something was right, he just mouthed off to whoever was in charge with casual speech and curse words littered in, didn't matter who they were. Boruto does the same. Sarada is showing a little bit of restraint by trying to keep up polite speech with Shikamaru, and even though she's frustrated. She's putting in a little bit more effort than Naruto or Boruto would have, but she's still keeping those same ideals Naruto and Boruto have, and in the end she doesn't hold back. Drops the polite speech. Mic drop and gone. Shikamaru, on the other hand, is being incredibly lenient with her. Every line that he says is filled with a certain amount of logic. Boruto was the one who crossed the line first. He's a Hokage killer. He even tried to kill the Hokage's son Kawaki. The "he can't go unpunished" line is actually "seisa wa manukare," which has the nuance of "I can't save him from death because of the sanctions against him." He reinforces that later. It's not just a matter of the law, it's the will of the people. Even if he does lift his order like she's asking him to, the people will still be upset. He says he's worried about her after she insults him, saying that at this rate she'll never become Hokage and stay a Genin for life. And it has nothing to do with her dad, it has everything to do with what she should be doing as a Konoha Shinobi. That line also has some removed nuance in the official where it just says, your future as a Konoha Shinobi. The original is, omae jishin ga dou aru beki ka? tte hanashi da, which has the same nuance as what I bolded above. It's implied that what she should be doing as a Konoha shinobi is acting in accordance with the will of the village rather than standing up for her traitor. That's when Sarada breaks out the line, Lord Seventh once brought back my dad, who'd gone rogue and committed great crimes. He became Hokage while still a genin. 七代目はかつて里を抜けて、大罪を起こしたパパを仲間として連れ戻し、そして下人のままHokageになった。My translation was, Lord Seventh once brought back Papa as a friend, teammate, even though he'd gone rogue and committed grave crimes, and he became Hokage as a genin. Notice the official removes the nuance of the word nakama for friend and teammate, and it also removes the nuance of Sarada calling him Papa, which I think is sweet, even though my dad is still perfectly fine. The reason I think it's sweet is because it's kind of like a little girl thing to do, not in the same way that girls would say daddy, it's just like, well, it's Papa. This is a direct counter to Shikamaru's concerns, and then Sarada leaves the office with her bomb drop of a line. My role model is Lord Seventh, not you. 私のお手本は7代目です。あなたじゃない. Sarada is upset. Konohamaru is trying to put her in her place, but Shikamaru actually attempts to match every one of Sarada's quips with logic and reasoning. There's this subtle understanding that maybe he doesn't actually want to side with the village, but even if he doesn't, his hands are currently tied. As a side note, the official was very true to Sarada's punctuation here, down to the amount of exclamation points. Makes me wonder why that punctuation change happened in chapter 16 with Sumire. Sarada and Sumire's conversation. Frustration and careful wording. There's some nuance lost in how Sarada addresses Shikamaru. In the official it says Master Shikamaru, but Sarada says Shikamaru-san. The official likes to use the word master for any suffix, be it Shisho, what Boruto calls Sasuke, Sensei, what Genin teams call their leaders, or san, a respectful suffix similar to Mr. So if you see the word master and you want to know which one it is, I'll always have that in my translation analysis here. In this instance, Sarada's use of san for Shikamaru goes to show that while Sarada hasn't accepted Shikamaru as the Hokage, she still wants to show him respect. Then we have Sumire talking about Kawaki. The order of speech bubbles is actually reversed there for impact. The official says, to them, Kawaki has always been the 7th Hokage's son, Uzumaki Kawaki. That's the simple truth. But the Japanese says, 7代目の息子、Uzumaki Kawaki. 本当にみんなにとってはずっと前からそれが当たり前の事実なんだよね. The literal translation of that is, Lord Seventh's son, Uzumaki Kawaki. Honestly, for everyone else since forever ago, it's like that's always been the obvious truth. Rewording this, I was a bit taken aback that Sumire worded it this way because it's so blunt. It's not Lord Seventh's son is Uzumaki Kawaki, it's just straight up stating it. Lord Seventh's son, Uzumaki Kawaki. I suppose someone had to do it for the sake of the readers, although maybe not quite like this. It could have been softened with the simple addition of one character, wa. Without it, it's just kind of striking. Why am I pointing this out? Because I don't think Sarada would ever dare to say those words straight like that. You might think that's a little extreme. Sure, Sarada could say Uzumaki Kawaki, but she just spent the whole 4 opening pages insulting Shikamaru as the new Hokage, begging him to see Boruto's side of things, and refuses to call Shikamaru the 8th. She knows Kawaki did something to Naruto. She was only putting up with him in the first place because of Naruto. Her hatred for Kawaki is on full display later. But if anyone is empathetic to Kawaki's situation in this whole thing, it's definitely Sumire. And that's kind of highlighted throughout the manga, which is why I wanted to highlight it again here, as well as how it kind of shows she's not as up in arms about the whole thing as Sarada is, which is another common trend you see throughout the manga. This is a situation Sarada very much refuses to accept, and she is incredibly choosy about her word choice surrounding this whole thing. So while Sumire can say Uzumaki Kawaki, the 7th Hokage's son, those same words will likely never come out of Sarada's mouth. It also shows how Sumire is a bit more lenient towards Kawaki's side of things, as well as the whole chain of omnipotence might have not affected her on a psychological level of complete refusal as much as it did Sarada. There's one more thing I'd like to point out about this section, and it's Sarada's line, ridiculous ability. Later in chapter 28, you'll see me break down a similar line with the exact same wording for Boruto. The official is, how are we supposed to counter such a ridiculous ability? The Japanese is, そのふざけた能力、どうやって対抗しろってんの? My translation, how the heck are we supposed to counter such a ridiculous ability? That bold part was bolded in the Japanese, so I bolded it here. Sarada's tone in this line is pretty frustrated. There's emphasis on the first part of fuzaketa, with katakana for ridiculous. Usually when it's like that I say it warrants a small curse word, so I added heck because the overall tone feels like it would warrant that. The tenor is adding to the fact that there isn't an answer, but she wants one, and that's the underlying tone of irritation. It's almost like she's pouting a little bit. Her anger and frustration hasn't calmed down. This line adds more to Sarada's frustration and her overall tone of annoyance than initially conveyed. There's also a bit about how early on everyone was kind of confused about certain details, like Kawaki's modified body and where Momoshiki went, and how Shikamaru was dissatisfied with the results of those findings. And now everyone is just convinced, despite all logical evidence. So omnipotence really is potent, to say the least. Ada's omnipotence explanation. Interesting fact. Damon uses gamer slang in his first line on page 13. When he says it's an unwinnable game, he uses the word murige, which is what gamers use to describe games that are bugged or glitched, so you literally can't beat the game, or games that are near impossible to clear. If you've watched The World God Only Knows or bottom tier character Tomozaki-kun, you'll probably hear it in there. It's also used in real-life situations for problems that seem impossible to solve, which is the use here. The below was written while looking only at the Japanese. If you have any qualms about how it differs from the English version and how that affects the power scaling, please contact me for extra information. Just like her charm ability, Ada has no control over omnipotence, but lately she's finally started to gain a bit of understanding on how it all works. Omnipotence is one of the shinjutsu made by the Otsuki. It manifests your desires, or gambo, and Kawaki's desire was what brought about the current state of affairs. What ended up being altered were people's memories. Everyone's memories surrounding Boruto and Kawaki were rewritten, and as a result, the standing, or the tachiba, of the two ended up switching. Note: Himawari and Chocho share similar non-menacing expressions on the bottom of page 14. The characters shown in this panel are Sasuke, Chocho, Shikadai, Mitsuki, Konohamaru, Himawari, Shikamaru, Sai, and Himajin. Ada dismisses Sarada, asking if there's a way to reverse it with a brief "sa ne," or who knows, and I don't really care. But at the very least, all of the people under the influence of omnipotence can't gain an understanding of what was just discussed. That being said, the ways of omnipotence works... that being the ways omnipotence works, and the fact that Boruto and Kawaki's positions were swapped. Sarada still thinks it's something that should be explainable, but Ada asks if she really thinks anyone will take her seriously when they believe that her memories are the ones that are messed up. To put it bluntly, it would be more sensible for her to throw away the thought of ever returning things the way they once were. It'd be more realistic to overwrite the existing memories with new ones, while of course being prepared for the risks that it would come with. Ada also comments on how it's rather odd that while Sarada and Sumire aren't Otsuki, they remained unaffected. Both omnipotence and charm don't work on Otsuki or blood relatives like Daemon. So then why have Sarada and Sumire retained their memories? More importantly, are they still really captives under Ada's charm ability? Meanwhile, Daemon is giving both of them hecka side-eye, and it's got that recap about Shikamaru telling both of them not to let Ada know about their powers, or else they'll be in danger because they're in position to be able to kill Ada. And Sumire is the one who smooths things over by convincing her that they're still charmed and they're just hiding their feelings. While I'm here, Sarada versus Sumire, effects of omnipotence. From this chapter, you really start to see how it affected the girls differently. For Sarada, it was a psychological shock filled with trauma. She sunk to her knees at the end of NNG crying, unlocked her Mangekyo, and sent Sasuke after Boruto. She lost her father, her role model Naruto, and her childhood friend and teammate who'd been with her pretty much every day of her life all at once. Now she's angry and desperate to find some sort of way to resolve this so she can clear Boruto's name as well as Sasuke's. She doesn't care what risk it brings to her standing in the village. She doesn't care if everyone thinks she's insane. Her clothes, her attitude, everything about her emphasizes how much this entire thing has deeply scarred her and shaped her current personality, and how she's taking after Naruto and working through all of her actions to fight for what she believes in. Sarada's daily life has drastically changed. All the people that she works with, all the situations she finds herself in, they all once had Boruto. And now Boruto's not there, and worse, he's been replaced by Kawaki. Every time she goes out on a mission, every time she interacts with the Hokage, every time she talks to a friend about anything ninja-related, Mitsuki, InoShikaChoHima, Himawari, they all treat Kawaki as the great person that Boruto once was, even though Kawaki was the one who did all this to them. There are constant reminders everywhere, so the only moments of her life when she isn't actively dealing with the direct effects of Boruto's loss is when she's with Sumire and Ada. Well, not just Boruto, but Boruto, her dad, and Nanadaime. Sumire, on the other hand, was able to analyze the situation logically from a bit more of a removed perspective at the end of NNG because she wasn't on site and she isn't as emotionally involved. She didn't have many connections or reason to care about Sasuke or the 7th Naruto on a deep emotional level. Boruto did save her life, but she was only around him for a short time at the academy. She's still in the labs, so her daily life hasn't seen much change, and neither has the people she interacts with. All of her interactions contain things that have had to do with Kawaki's end or data analyzation for the village, and there likely wasn't much talk of Boruto around the labs, aside from him visiting or the pills. Her daily life hasn't changed much, and neither have the conversations surrounding her, so the only time she's forced to think about the effects of Boruto's absence is when she personally reflects on it or when she's around Sarada who brings it up. While it still shows in her facial expressions, and that it's upsetting, her clothes and hair underwent little change, her attitude reflects the same calm and logical understanding, she's able to lie to Ada, and her words and actions show how she's accepted the situation for what it is and knows there may be nothing they can do, and she's prepared to deal with that reality. If you also notice, Sarada had all the dialogue about Boruto being treated unfairly and Shikamaru's reactions, while Sumire has all the dialogue about everyone else's reactions, the villagers, as well as mentioned to Kawaki as Naruto's true son, and how Kawaki's body was modified by Yamato. Sarada is definitely more in tune with the ninja side of things and defiance, as well as looking for a way to solve all of this, whereas Sumire is more concerned with the science side of things and saving face, and what to do with the aftermath when nothing can be done. It's a very interesting and delicate balance. Kawaki insulting Mitsuki. First, to start us off, we have Kawaki's overall rough tone. It's always been like that, but he's quite rude and dismissive of Mitsuki, even more so in the Japanese than in the official English. That "quit following me around like some sick perv" line in English, Kawaki actually uses the word henshitsha, which is different from the average hentai because it's more like a medical term for someone with a particular psychological disorder or perverse inclination, and someone who has a distorted or abnormal sexual preference or behavior, especially one that is considered socially unacceptable. Instead of saying "it's annoying," Kawaki actually says "mezoari nandayo," which has several different nuanced meanings. The first one is a literal visual obstruction, like trash littering the street, being unpleasant to look at. The second is irritating in an abstract way, like someone disrupting your peace of mind. And third is someone that draws unwanted attention and makes a situation less enjoyable. No matter what nuance he means, in any situation, my man Mitsuki doesn't deserve to be treated like this. All he wanted to do was protect his son, and Kawaki is calling him a degenerate, clingy garbage. A lot of times I defend Kawaki's actions by saying he's only rude so people won't be sad when he decides to off himself in the end, like they would have been with Boruto, which is why they couldn't kill him even though he was a threat, which was his big dilemma. So he's trying to get the people that would have been the first to save him to hate him the most. And I guess Mitsuki is one of the top ones on that list, but at the same time, no wonder Mitsuki is starting to have doubts. In summary, as much as Kawaki wished Boruto was some ungrateful nobody like him that everyone could have no qualms about killing off, as much as he wants to ruin his standing by making everyone despise him, I don't know. I don't think I can defend this one. Poor Mitsuki. Himawari and InoShikaCho. Certainty about Naruto's life. The first thing I want to point out here is character tone. Shikadai is chill, logical analysis, typical teenage boy slang, a bit rough around the edges, but well-polished tone. Inojin has a lot more breakful and cheerful tone than usual. He speaks English and calls Himawari with the suffix chan. Chocho has the tone of a very much teenage girl, much slang. Himawari is a bit hesitant but still cutesy in a kind of little girl way, polite and humble and respectful, not quite as shy as Hinata, but has the gentleness of her mother's tone. Inojin actually says "nice fight" in English on page 29. Nice fighto. He also calls Himawari with chan, which is just a cutesy way of calling a girl, usually a girl, to indicate closeness, or just to refer to a girl younger than you. In reality, there's so many different meanings and situations you can use chan. So I gave you a summary of the key nuances of chan apparently. 1 is affection and closeness, used to show affection, warmth, and familiarity. 2 is children and pets, commonly used for children or pets to show endearment. My friend's dog's name is Pero-chan. Close friends indicates a casual, intimate relationship with peers or younger people. Subordinates or younger people, used when speaking to someone younger or junior, indicating a caring or friendly tone. Romantic, used in romantic contexts to express tenderness or playfulness. Teasing and playful, can be used in playful teasing amongst friends, but may be considered condescending if used incorrectly. Boruto uses this when he is looking for Sarada on the roof of the train with the rest of the boys from their class because Shikadai thinks he saw her up there, and he goes around the pillar and he's like, "Sarada-chan." Anyway, personification. Applied to cute objects or animals to make them sound adorable. Childish and immature. Can sound very childish or overly familiar if used inappropriately with adults or in formal situations. Gender and age. More common for females with children, but not exclusive to them. Thank ChatGPT for the list. Mine would have been a couple paragraphs long. Anyway, some of you might remember Inojin as having a bit of Sai's dry sarcasm paired with Ino's intentional antagonization. There is no hint of this in front of Himawari. He's all calm and smiles and nice. It seems he's done a 180 on his personality. In Light Novel 5, there's a scene where Inojin and Himawari are drawing, and they have matching sketchbooks. I translated on my subreddit, and I was able to dig it up, but I'll put it here so all of you have this extra context before the events of TBV take place. You don't know what to write for your graduation essay? What makes you think it was a good idea to ask me? Inojin shot Mitsuki a confused look from the park bench. He was drawing some sort of picture. I didn't think we were close enough to talk about this kind of thing. Now that you mention it, I guess we aren't? Why even bother pausing to question it at this point? Heck, you really just walked up to me without giving it a second thought? As Mitsuki put his long sleeve up to his chin, even Inojin's sharp tongue couldn't help but fade into a wry smile. I guess I could care less, but my idea probably won't be much of a reference to go on. I hardly ever write essays, after all. You don't write essays? As Mitsuki made another face of confusion, Inojin held his sketchbook out for Mitsuki to see. This is all I do. Draw. I don't write. They said anything goes, so I figured, why not do this instead? Mitsuki nodded in understanding. He never thought about doing that way. It seemed like drawing wasn't a deviation from writing a graduation essay. Draw and write are pronounced the same in Japanese with different kanji, kaku and kaku. Interesting. So that kind of thing is allowed too. I don't understand how you can genuinely find that to be interesting. Mitsuki stared as Inojin went back to his artwork. It's a bit surprising. Even though you're good at drawing, I didn't think you'd go through the effort of making a picture for something like this. Huh? Inojin's hand halted. Your artistic skills were just a way to hone your ninjutsu, were they not? I thought you didn't actually like drawing that much. If I recall correctly, you said something like that before. Such a person might practice their skills to create super beasts, but why go through all the trouble of painting a picture for graduation when it could easily be done with words? Or at least, that's what Mitsuki thought. You're not wrong. Up until a little while ago, that used to be my line of thinking. A little while ago? Just then. Ah, there you are. A cutesy girl came jogging up to them with a sweet smile on her face. Mitsuki also knew her. It was Boruto's little sister, Himawari. She was holding something in her hands. Ah, Mitsuki Oni-chan is here too. Oni-chan is a word for big brother. It can also be used by young girls to refer to boys that are older than them, hence why Boruto used to call Konohamaru ni-chan instead of sensei. Himawari uses it for all of Boruto's friends in the light novels. Hello, Himawari-chan. What brings you here? Himawari had a smile that lit up her whole face just like her big brother. She held out her sketchbook proudly with both hands, showing it to Mitsuki. I'm gonna draw pictures. I made plans to draw with Inojin Oni-chan today. Is that so? Mitsuki was surprised that this was a common point of interest between the two. When he looked at Inojin, he noticed that his face had a slight reddish tint to it. After observing Inojin as a member of the same class, Mitsuki knew he almost always acted nonchalant about everything, but now he seemed to be embarrassed. Himawari seemed to be very attached to Inojin Oni-chan. Now that he looked closer, it seemed like they had matching sketchbooks. Taking in the sight before him, Mitsuki could vaguely understand why Inojin, who spoke so dryly of his drawings as just doing it for the sake of my clan's secret ninjutsu, had changed his mindset and wanted to draw for his graduation essay. Rather than coming to love painting, it might be more accurate to say that deep down he had always liked it, and something just gave him the chance to rediscover that. I see. Then Inojin is teaching you how to draw, Himawari-chan? Nope, I'm the teacher. Inojin Oni-chan's art teacher. Pretty cool, huh? Mitsuki didn't really understand, but it seemed like something complicated was going on. He had no idea that when Inojin had previously fallen into a slump and was no longer able to use Super Beast Scroll properly, his father Sai suggested he relearn the importance of putting emotions into one's paintings from Himawari. Well, that's how it is. I didn't help you come up with any bright ideas, did I? I wouldn't say that. Thank you for your time. Mitsuki felt as though he'd be a nuisance if he hung around, so he decided to leave. He was able to read the room, even if it was just to this extent. That, along with Inojin's views, were likely changes brought about in them by the Academy. So yeah, that whole art slump episode was canon to the light novel at least. Every time Inojin says Himawari in the official, just mentally add chan, because it's always there. I know they like to dumb things down for the general audience, but I think suffixes add a lot of character to a relationship. Heck, The more you read this manga, the more you will come to realize how much character suffixes add. I'm looking at you, TBV chapter 19. Apparently I haven't posted an analysis for that one. Ahem. It's important to note that Inojin's tone has seemingly gone to the most drastic change. Through the most drastic change. What? I didn't put that word. And the source of this change seems to be Himawari. Himawari, on the other hand, has gained a bit of maturity about her, but she still has the same humble humility to her speech that she had as a kid, while her expressions lean more towards Naruto's. It's the opposite for Boruto. He seems to have Hinata's expression with Naruto's manner of speech. Anyway, when Himawari says she wants to help Boruto, she says "chikara ni naritai," which is something I'm pointing out because people complained about it when a different character said that in chapter 21. Either way, Himawari wants to lend him her strength. She wants to support him. She's training to get strong to help Boruto the traitor, and InoShikaCho are concerned. The other big change I want to point out is that in Japanese, Himawari says she can feel it, that her dad is certainly still alive somewhere. The official says, I have this feeling that my dad is still alive somewhere, but the Japanese says, kanjiru no, otou-san wa kitto mada dokokade ikiteiru. Ikiteru. My translation. I can feel it, I'm sure. My dad is alive out there, somewhere. The bolt was emphasized in Japanese. The key words are kanjiro no, I can feel it, kitto, certainly, most likely, 90% sure. That nuance was just kind of dropped, so I'm putting it back in. All in all, the nuance dropped in Himawari's speech was that she wants to be Boruto's strength and help support him, and that she can somehow directly feel like her dad is almost definitely alive somewhere. Ninja extras, treating Kawaki like Boruto. That little "thanks, Kawaki" from the random patrol ninja just hurt my heart. Seeing the villagers treat him like Boruto without a second thought, all chipper, he shows up, does what he came to do, does what he came there to do, and gets out, disrespects every person there with his speech, and the other ninjas still smile and say, "Thanks, Kawaki," with enthusiasm. As much as Kawaki wants to earn their distrust, he's got a long ways to go before he can make everyone in the village accept his wish for death. The full weight of this situation never ceases to make me sad. The other ninja talk about a theory that maybe they're doing alright because Boruto isn't in the village, and Code has a grudge against Boruto, so it would be great if they could take each other out. They wouldn't complain if Boruto made easy work of the enemy for them, which is one step closer to accepting Boruto. One ninja also has a pretty severe reaction to Kawaki pulling on the back of his shirt, even if it's to get rid of the claw grind. It shows how while they do accept Kawaki as Boruto, his actions still aren't fully worthy of their trust all the time. This was just a lot to say. I hate Omnipotence because of the emotional wreckage I put my over-empathetic self into, and even if it's small, it is subtly showing the effects on people outside of the main cast, and how that might affect the main cast as a whole. Master Shika, 36. Page 36. Why did I say the page number? Like I said before, anytime you see the word master, there's probably something else going on in Japanese. Ada calls Shikamaru Shika-san because she calls everyone with chan. Shika-chan. My bad. Ada calls Shikamaru Shika-chan because she calls everyone with chan. She's a lot more powerful than them, and probably sees men as her cute little pets. I'll discuss her other callings of people as they come up, but here, Kawaki says Shika-san, and san is more polite than chan. It's still demeaning as a nickname. I'm zooming in because I can't see. Because not only is he calling him by name, he gave him a short nickname, like they're old work buddies or something. This was likely a nickname that stemmed from Ada calling him Shika-chan, because otherwise Kawaki seems like the type who would have just called him Shikamaru with no honorific. Are? Oh, okay. Come on. No, I did write this correctly. Sorry. Because otherwise Kawaki seems like the type who would have just called him Shikamaru with no honorific. And it's got a yo at the end to make it even more playful. Imagine calling Donald Trump Mr. Don. That's kind of what Kawaki is doing here. And then Ada would call him Don Don. Those are the vibes if I were to equate it to its situation in English. Shinobi's orders. Kawaki's tone is so rude. I cannot emphasize this enough. He sounds like Bakugo if Bakugo didn't care about his life. He calls the other shinobi, Shinobi Domo. Follow the Shinobi Domo's instructions. Those lesser idiot shinobi, yeah, those guys. Follow their orders. Official. Run now! Follow the shinobi's instructions. The Japanese. Hayaku nigero! Shinobi Domo no shiji ni shitagau n da. My translation. Move your butts. Follow those other worthless shinobi's orders to a T. It's not quite to that extreme, but worthless per se. I don't know how Kawaki sounds in dub, but I hope he curses at least as much as Bakugo, because the way he's written is very deserving of it. Meanwhile, the other guys in the background are acting like typical Japanese chaos control. Don't push your way through. Please remain calm as you evacuate the area. Bro, even the ambulances here talk like that. Ambulance coming through. Please move out of the way. They have a megaphone they can talk into as the sirens are blaring. Some old man just walked straight in front of the ambulance once and continued across the crosswalk as the ambulance was sitting there with their lights on. Japan is an interesting country. Anyway, Kaki's language is almost always insulting. That's it. Code and Sarada and Boruto's response. Oh, how I've longed to do an analysis breakdown of this. I think I'm just going to start by retranslating this whole section here. Have a moment. Code. Good day to you, Uchiha Sarada. What's your business with Konoha? I'm searching for that word I can't say, Boruto. Well, he isn't here. It's been 3 years since he left the village. Oh, I know. I've been chasing his trail for nearly 2 years now. As one might expect, it has been tiring work. I said he's not in Konoha. Go and try and get lucky somewhere else. Perhaps I phrased it poorly. Allow me to re-explain. I decided to stop searching. That is why I am in Konoha. Huh? I thought I'd summon him by using his former friends to whom he still has plenty of lingering attachment, starting with you. Cry out for me in your best voice to make sure that it reaches him. Cue Boruto. It's because you have disgusting ideas like those that all the girls are completely turned off by you. Word I can't say. There are a few points to note here. Code's tone. Lingering attachment. Scream real pretty, or cry out in your best voice, and Boruto's response. First up, Code's tone. Code says Gokigen yo to Sarada. Ahem. For those of you that have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, there are many ways to greet people in Japanese just as there are in English. And there's the elegant, slightly snobby, slightly rich person sounding uppity Gokigen yo. That's the one Code uses. I can never quite explain how much this makes me laugh. I know it suits his character, but imagine the villain pulls up out of nowhere and his speech is like he's sipping tea in his best Sunday suit with a monocle on and says, well, good day to you, Uchiha Sarada. The absolute mockery. People that use Gokigen-yo nowadays are few and far between, but some do use it, and when they do, it's a bit startling. In most situations, it feels like they're using it to look down on someone else because they are upper class, which Code is quite literally looking down on Sarada, but the character Marika Tachibana from Nizuko uses this as a greeting, I think in episode 15. You can kind of gauge the reactions from the people around her if you want to understand more nuance on this greeting. Other options might be, good morrow, fare thee well, hail, hark, top of the morning to you. The point is, Code's greeting is quite elegant and formal, perhaps a reflection of the Ozuki who carry the same speech, but it's also incredibly prideful and uppity. The rest of his tone is pretty normal, so it's just this greeting to be a snob. The second thing is, Code's wording when he talks about Sarada being one of Boruto's friends, with whom he still has a lingering attachment to. The official is, I thought I'd have his former friends, toward whom he still cares about, summon him. The Japanese is, 呼んでもらおうと思ってね。奴にとって未練たっぷりの元仲間たちに. The translation was, I thought I'd summon him, by using his former friends, to whom he still has plenty of lingering attachment. For all the shippers out there, here's the definition of the word miren, or lingering attachment. Miren refers to the feeling or state of being unable to let go of a particular attachment to a particular thing or person. For example, it is used to describe the state of being unable to recover from a breakup with a partner, or the state of being unable to give up on something. Main meanings of miren. Unable to let go of feelings. A state in which strong feelings or attachment to a particular person or event remain, preventing one from moving forward. Unable to give up. This is used not only to describe romantic relationships, but also to a variety of things, such as work or dreams. Immature. It can mean not being skilled at something yet, but it is also generally used in the aforementioned sense of unable to let go of feelings. Code also says tappuri, which means plenty of, or overflowing with. He does use the word moto nakama tachi, which is the plural of friends, so even though he says he's starting with Sarada, if Sarada didn't work, he'd likely go after someone else. Good grief. But in the future of the manga, through Boruto's flashbacks, you find out why Code might target Sarada first. Without spoiling too much, I'll just say Code had a little run-in with Boruto and Sasuke 2 years ago, so at the very least he knows Sarada is allied with him since Sasuke was with him, and Sasuke said something before doing something that Code might have heard, which likely prompted him to take this action. That, or it could have been something Boruto did while he was unconscious. Code knows something is up with Boruto and Sarada being allied, and he knows from Boruto's end, and likely not Sarada's, because otherwise he wouldn't have phrased it as Boruto still having lingering affection and attachment to her. What? Oops, sorry. The third thing is that disgusting line that came out of Code's mouth that offended Boruto so deeply. The official was, "I hope you can scream real pretty, so that it will reach him." The Japanese was, "Seizei ii koe de naite kure yo, yatsu ni shikkari todoku you ni." My translation was, "Cry out for me in your best voice, to make sure that it reaches him." Now, why might this be so offensive, enough to warrant Boruto's reaction? Code says, "Seizei" as much as possible, as much as one can. "Ii koe," nice voice, pretty voice, good voice. "Naite kure," cry out for me, yo, extra emphasis on do it. "Yatsu ni," to him, Boruto, "shikkari," properly, soundly, "todoku you ni," so that it reaches. Seizei being as much as you can adds on one layer of disgust, because it's like, oh, you know, make sure it's good, kind of teasing and taunting her. "Ii koe" adds another layer of disgust, because it's not just scream for me, it's scream pretty for me, like make sure your voice is of the best quality of screams. Naite, as I mentioned, is like cry out like an animal crying, or dropping to your knees from grief and loss and pain, crying out with a different kanji, or crying as in shedding tears with a different kanji, but they're all pronounced the same. Either way, that adds another layer of disgust. A little bird came into my DMs one day and said, "Hey, don't they use this phrase to describe moaning or letting out your voice in a cry because of pleasure or pain in hentai novels?" And as far as I investigated, that does indeed seem to be the case, with a different kanji. But I haven't bought a hentai novel to confirm this. Just did some digging on the internet and asked a couple friends who were like, maybe, I think, that sounds right. As easily accessible as they are, unfortunately, in this country, I have decided not to confirm my suspicions by putting myself through the shameful act of bringing something like that up to the cashier. Either way, that would totally make sense with Boruto's response to all this. Kure. When you ask someone for a favor in Japanese, you use this kure. So it's like, oh, can you cook this for me? It would be tsukutte kureru. But either way, kure is the harsher form of this construct, so it's like, do it for me, which adds another layer of disgust. Shikkari todoku you ni is kind of so it delivers well. Like, I'll make sure your cry is so pitiful that he'll have no choice but to come running right away kind of nuance. Because if he hears it, there's no way he won't come to save you kind of thing. This line from Code is quite disgusting in an almost perverse way, and the uppity snob look on his face when he says it, yeesh. Anyway, no wonder Boruto responds the way he does. The fourth thing is, of course, Boruto flying out of the sky and stepping on Code's face, and what he says in response. The official. It's that kind of sick thinking that creeps girls out. The Japanese. そういうキモい発想してっからてめえはよ、女子にドン引きされてんだろう。It's because you have disgusting ideas like those that all the girls are completely turned off by you word I can't say. For clarification on the use of the F word. Censorship is a huge topic discussed in translation class. When does Japanese, a language that indicates harshness based off of word endings and lettering, warrant curse words like the F word, a specific harsh word in English? A lot of it depends on the translator and what they're allowed to put in the translations. Most companies don't allow the F word to be used, even when the character's speech might warrant it. So for the translation of this line, I actually got together with two of my bilingual friends from the dorm, and we discussed the translation of it from Japanese to English and all the ways it could be translated. First of all, we discussed the katakana littering Boruto's Japanese, and how it's purposefully indicating much harsher tone, as well as the use of the pronoun he addresses Code with, teme, a harsh way to say you. Second, the context of the situation. Boruto has come to save his childhood friend, whom according to this villain, he still holds lingering affection towards, after 3 years of being away from the village, from a villain who quite literally borderline sexually harassed her with his words, and he's stepping on the villain's face. His entrance is meant to be quite heroic, and his tone quite harsh. The consensus we came to was, heck no, the official does not use harsh enough wording. The second consensus we came to was, Boruto is a young teen. Shouldn't we throw in some Gen Z slang since he's using a slang word here, and maybe to censor it a little, take the R's off. So more accurately, the line is, disgusting ideas like those are why you've got no Riz, word I can't say. Anyway, I decided this was a little bit too silly sounding, as much as I love it. So you, those kinds of kimoi, disgusting, gross, and katakana for emphasis. Hustle, idea, conception, way of thinking. Shitekkara, because you do it, rough and masculine. Teme, harsher form, as opposed to anata, anta, kimi, omae, kisama. Wayo, sentence ending, harsh again, small katakana for emphasis on you. Know that you are disgusting. Joshi, the girls. Donbiki, turned off, katakana and stronger emphasis on completely turned off. sareten daro. Sareten is past form. They are receiving the action of being turned off. Daro, this is how it is, and it's disgusting little creep. The most important thing to note here, besides the katakana for strengthening the line, is this donbiki. The phrase hikuwa is like, ew, that's such a turn off. Donbiki is like that, but with extra emphasis because of don. Jisho definitions are being put off by someone's words, behavior, etc., being taken aback, recoiling in shock, disgust, cringing, being left speechless. Jisho sentence examples are, Oi, ikagen pants neta, yametoke yo na, dokusha ga shirizoku donbiki. Hey, it's about time you quit it with the panty jokes. You put off the readers, you creeper. And apparently just make my stomach growl. Sorry if you can hear that. So, not only is Boruto pissed, he's also directly slamming Code for being a creep towards Sarada and a creep in general, and having no riz. Boruto's return, theories on how it happened, and reactions to it. I love how Boruto's return gets 2 full-page spreads, one for him stepping on Code's face, and another for him standing in front of Sarada. The veins of anger in Code's eyes, the dirt stain in the corner of his mouth on the final page, the absolute glare Boruto is giving this man. Couldn't have asked for a better return scene. Boruto also didn't turn his chakra signature off. He let the sensory team find him. He just announced his return to the village by appearing out of nowhere right over Sarada. I scanned the area in the panel for creatures, and didn't see any. There was a huge wide shot right above Sarada before Boruto dropped down on Code's face, and Kawaki didn't detect his presence before that either. So I assume Boruto had to have used a certain ability of his to get there, since Kawaki would have caught him if he was lurking nearby. But then, where was the necessary thing to use that ability? My original theory for this was Sarada's new metal framed glasses, because of who gave her the pair in the first place and who might have upgraded them, as well as had that potential connection to someone who is using that hideout. But at the very least, because of this scene in a later chapter with Kawaki and Konohamaru where the ability is used and a similar result happens in terms of face stepping, we can assume the necessary thing was very close to Code. We also have Sumire shown to react with a Boruto-kun, meaning this message is going out to more than just Shikamaru. It likely went to Ada, Kawaki, and potentially Amado as well. Speaking of kun, Tsunade always uses this to call Boruto. I think I'll save the specifics of the breakdown on why that's important for another post, but all honorifics that are used to address anyone have meaning, and this is no exception. What a post. What a first chapter. What a time to be had by this manga. 5 hours and 8,751 words later, and I just barely went over all the nuances with only a few touches on reviewer theory, as expected of a first chapter analysis. So much to explore. I hope you enjoyed this chapter as much as I did. If you like my work, please check out other areas of the site. I have lots of interesting info for you to read through. And that is the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I am going to post it all in one take without any edits, hopefully. So, enjoy, and don't mind the stomach growling. I did eat, I promise. I had food. That's all. Goodbye.